internet, my name's Lave and I've finally seen Star Wars and I'm going to tell you what I thought about it. I was more than a little excited about seeing this film. When the day finally came round, I was sitting at work and I just wanted to jump up out of my seat and go So you've got to give props to how they've marketed Star Wars. Now you might think it was the easiest job in the world because Star Wars has already got a huge fan base and people are going to see it no matter what. But they resisted the temptation of giving away any spoilers in the trailers, and the film is so much better for that. So I think it's only right that I shouldn't give away any spoilers in this review. So JJ Abrams is in the director's chair after successfully rebooting Mission Impossible and Star Trek, but I still thought this was going to be a challenge for him. After all, this is only his 5th feature film. I've got to admit there are some of his signatures and trademarks which I was hoping he wasn't going to carry over into this. Lens flares. Even more lens flares. Seriously, loads of lens flares. But I'm glad to say that none of these are carried over into this film. There definitely were a couple of scenes where I could just picture him going, please, just a little lens flare. I have to admit he has absolutely pulled this off. So he's managed to capture the feel of the original Star Wars. Now I'm not talking so much about the plot. Some might say that the beats are very similar to A New Hope. We'll talk about that at a later date. I'm talking about filming in real locations. Now I know a lot of people shit on the prequels for its over-reliance on CG. I'm actually an advocate of CG. If you look at some of the examples, particularly the CG characters, they still hold up considering this was shot in 1999. I found the scenes most jarring when they inserted live action people into digital sets. I mean, check out Samuel L. Jackson's face here. It's obviously green screen. So The Force Awakens definitely benefits from shooting on real locations. But the point I'm trying to make is that they made a huge deal of going back to practical effects and puppetry, but there actually is a lot of CG in it, and I would have found it weird if they'd have used traditional stop motion techniques. The real trick is blending between the two. They pulled it off. It feels like the same universe visually, and the visuals are outstanding. Having said that, I went to see the IMAX 3D version of this, and I really wish I hadn't. I just found the 3D distracting, and I'd wish I'd seen it in 2D, so I would definitely recommend seeing it in 2D, but still see it in IMAX. Anyway, all of that aside, what I really wanted this film to be was a character-driven piece, and they've absolutely nailed it. I'm totally invested in the new characters. One of them being Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. Not taking anything away from Carrie Fisher's Leia, who was a strong female protagonist in the originals, but Rey is never in that situation of being the damsel in distress and needing rescuing. I just really liked her character and the journey she goes on. So Rey is a scavenger on this planet Jakku, very reminiscent of Tatooine. She gets entangled with John Boyega's character Finn, which sets them off on this new adventure where they eventually run into Han Solo and Chewbacca. I've got to admit I was worried about Harrison Ford coming back to be Han Solo. I kind of feel like he just doesn't care anymore, has given up on his career. But he is Han Solo. A Han Solo 40 years down the line, but still Han Solo. It's not the age, it's the mileage. There is a scene with these four involving a couple of CG monsters, which I kind of felt like filler. That could have been cut from the film, but everything picks up again quite quickly. There is even a part where they walk into like a space bar or pub. I guarantee you any Star Wars fan heard this. I betcha. So Han and his new crew are being pursued across the galaxy by Kylo Ren and the First Order of the Empire. Space Nazis. And I've got to say, I really liked Kylo Ren. The way he uses the Force is really forceful. Whenever Darth Vader used the Force, it was always a bit like, any attack on this space station will be futile. Shut up. Kylo Ren stops a blaster and he tortures people with it. And he gets really angry. And that's reflected in his lightsaber. It kind of feels like he's worked on it and it's overclocked and it's just bursting with energy. He uses his anger, boy. The only negative thing I've got to say about Kylo Ren is there is clunky exposition to explain his backstory a little. That aside, I was still invested in his story and sold on him as a character. Speaking of characters, I totally loved BB-8. Imagine all of the parts that you love of R2-D2, but even cuter and minus C-3PO, that's BB-8. I totally want one of those BB-8 toys now. So that's my initial thoughts on Star Wars The Force Awakens. Although it does have its flaws, I'm totally on board with the new characters, and they've blended them in with the old seamlessly. There's not very many films that I could walk out of a cinema and feel like I could walk straight back in and watch it again. But perhaps the biggest compliment I can say is that I really want to see the next one now. Yeah, cannot wait. So no enjoyment tracker, as I feel that could fall into spoiler territory, but it will definitely be back in my spoiler review. I'm hoping to see it again in between Christmas and New Year's. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Either way, tell me in the comments. My question this week is, what is your favourite Star Wars moment across the complete saga? Subscribe.